Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. My guest today is Yasser Baksh from YBMS Biotec Limited. He's got an amazing product that kills pathogens on contact, but you can also spray it onto food. It's a fascinating product. Yasser, before we get into your product, please say hi to the people.
Hi, good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this show today. I've heard quite a lot about it. And to be honest with you, I've been meaning to be on the show for some time. Eric spoke to me maybe more than 6 months ago, and we actually organized. Actually, it was in the first year of COVID, so it's way more than six months ago.
Yes.
And we discussed food, essentially. And I'm a bit of a foodie. So and a traveler as well, so it goes hand in hand, as he is also seems to be British as well as Trinidadian, if I'm not mistaken. We're pretty much up in the same alley, so to speak.
Yes. So yes, as I said, we're going to talk about your amazing product later. First of all, Caribbean food.
Right.
So can I ask you, what is your favorite Caribbean dish?
Well, to identify what someone's favorite dish is, you'll have to identify essentially what makes that dish, and of course this program is about Caribbean dishes. So what is a Caribbean person? What is a Creole? Because Creole is essentially Caribbean. If you are born within the West Indies, you are identified as Creole, no matter what race you are. That is according to the University of the West Indies, that part of the studies that I would have done there. And interestingly enough, Creole, being part of the West Indies, can also be associated with a melting pot, a mixing of sorts, right? And I have, what is also very interesting is that because I am in part a foodie, as I mentioned before, I love eating different things. And interestingly enough, again, it's just a few years ago, I would say maybe 5, maybe 6 years ago, I came across a roti. Now, it would sound very generic of me to say roti because I am of East Indian descent, born Trinidadian, right? But growing up, I did not have a lot of roti. It's not a staple in my home because my mom is not Trinidadian. She has no roots in Trinidad. She's Dutch and Surinamese. So growing up, we had actually a lot of rice, a lot of provisions, and a lot of pasta. That is essentially what we grew up with, okay, with a tinge of Indian spice. Let's put it that way. So roti for me was very much a delicacy. We did not get it at home. I would have to go to my grandparents, my father's parents, to get roti. And then approximately 5 or 6 years ago, I was in St. James, and I was really, really hungry. So of course, St. James is very famous for street food, right? And I happened to be there, and I saw these 3 lovely ladies. They were all over the age of 50. Very nice ladies, though, very kind ladies. And they had their stall on the pavement. It was on the corner of one of the streets. We will get to that later. And I think it was Salazar Street on St. James. That's on the western end of the Western Main Road. So I asked them, what type of roti do you serve? And they said, Dosti. So I said, well, what is that? Because I'm only familiar with paratha roti and basap shot, which is quote unquote, paratha roti is basap shot, and you have sada roti as well. And then you have dal puri. So those are the more familiar ones, more generic ones in Trinidad, I would say. So I said, well, what is that? So the lady said, well, it's like a dal puri roti, except without the dal falling out. And I said, okay, well, that sounds awesome because, I particularly don't like to get too messy. I'm not a messy eater. I am very much a knife and fork kind of a guy. But of course, if I'm eating a roti or if I'm having wings, I'm not going to use knife and fork. That makes no sense, right? So, you have to be practical with the things that you do in life as well. So finger foods are for your fingers. So, of course, so the lady said, well, how would you like this roti? I said, okay, well, show me what you have. Show me the supplemental stuff, what you will put inside of it and so forth. So she showed me an array of things. There were different meats, of course. There was chicken, there was beef. There were different types of chicken as well. With respect to the way they made it, there was a stew type, there was a curry, there was a curried beef as well. And so I said, okay, well, this looks amazing. And she said there was pumpkin, spinach, or bhaji, right, as is known locally, and of course potato as well. So I said, okay, here's what. Can I do it my way? She said, yes, of course, it's for you. So they were very lovely. I must admit. And so I said, okay, let's take a little bit of the potato, the aloo, right, and smear it. So I don't want chunks of potato in there. Can you just smear it for me, right? She said, okay, that's interesting. So then I added a bit of pumpkin and a bit of the bhaji as well. And I used curried beef. I'm a huge beef lover, okay? No offense to my Hindu friends out there. I am Muslim, by the way. So the only thing that I don't eat is pork. And I think, well, we're not allowed to eat as well animals with meals like wild meat. There's certain types of wild meat we're not allowed to eat either. I think a lot of Muslims don't know that as well. So yes, so getting back to the beef, and of course it was fillet type beef. So there were no bones in there. So I love that and that's also why I did not choose chicken, because I really detest having to pull out bones while I'm eating, especially with a roti or a sandwich. You just want to get into it and destroy that sandwich, right? So the lady wrapped it up. It was a very similar wrap to, I would describe, a dal puri roti. Very similar wrap, but of course without the dried dal falling out of it. And because of the way that she folded it, it was also not messy, which I really appreciated. So there I am chowing. I took a bite of this thing, and I swear it blew me away. It really blew me away. Okay. And it was the fact that the roti was so, I can describe the texture as that of a bus-up shot, because it was very, very smooth and very, very silky. But the form of a dal puri without the dried dal, right? Very, very comfortably wrapping up the rest of the ingredients or the supplemental foods, so as the pumpkin and the bhaji and the potato and the beef. And I swear I just devoured it. It was quick. It was quick. I bought two immediately.
Okay.
Because this sandwich, and it was very, very cheap, cost effective, right? Meaning that at the time, this was before COVID, I got one of those rotis for $20. I think it is now $30 because, you can understand everything has gone up and supply chain management has increased, well, pretty much everything. So I think it's now $30. But I had two at a time. I made friends with the three ladies there. And every time, because of my work and I guess my friends, my network, I have a lot of people who come from abroad to Trinidad, whether it's for work, whether they're my friends or whatsoever. And I take everyone there. Everyone there. And it's I'm almost like a meme now or a running joke, because when I get there now, they ask me, so where is this one from? So I've taken people from the Netherlands, which is technically like my home, because as a kid I grew up there, as well as in Suriname. So I went to school there, I lived there. So I'm also a customer, which is why I started with the melting point. And this is what makes Trinidad unique, because if you look at, you're from the UK. If you look at the UK, if you look at Western Europe, if you look at the North Americas, there are loads of different types of people from different cultures there, but they're not integrated amongst each other. So therefore, their foods are not really integrated amongst each other. So what do I mean by that? If you go to the UK and you go to the West Indian village and you try to buy food, you will get different types of food. You get Jamaican food, you get maybe even Trinidadian food, you get Asian type foods. But in Trinidad, and the same thing you'll get in New York, right? But in Trinidad, what you find is you'd find, let's say, food that is typically more Creole, essentially, using Indian spices, and vice versa. And that is the integration of the different cultures, and that's why I use the word melting pot. We, as Trinidadians, we love to use the word melting pot, but I don't think we understand primarily what it means. And using food as an example is a great way to portray that, right? And it goes is so to speak with respect to the other dishes that I will mention as well, because okay, like for example, you have, so that was the Dosti Roti. That was the first one.
Sorry, can we just go over exactly where that is in St. James?
Right,
Can you
it's on
remember?
the western end of the Western Main Road in St. James. So if you're driving in a westerly direction and you had passed, I would say, the police station on your left hand side, just keep looking on your right hand side. It should be on Salazar Street, or it should be on Salazar Street, or the
On the
street
corner.
before, or the street before. Yeah, on the corner of that street,
Right.
on the pavement. So it's not in a store. It's not in a store. It's literally on the pavement. And I'll be honest with you as well. I mean, I buy primarily from the three ladies, but along the stretch of that Western Main Road, there are a few different stalls that sell the Dosti Roti.
Right.
I can't put my head on a block to say if they are as good as those ladies, because they were exceptional. I'll tell you, the pumpkin, everything meshed perfectly. And I love vegetables. I think Trinidadians don't really like vegetables too much. I think you mentioned
You're
that
right there. Yeah.
to me, right? They look at a salad as if it's something alien, right? But I do appreciate good vegetables, and especially if you can add some spices to it, or you can maybe roast it a little bit. I think it adds a lot to the quality of the food as well. And I particularly don't eat a lot of carbohydrates. I try to keep myself healthy, keep my insides clean. I'm now 38. As a younger individual, closer to my mid-teens to my mid-20s, I used to be a less athletic person, more athletic, I should say. I played football at club level, and I did a bit of martial arts as well. I do long distance running. I swim. So I've recently picked up golf, and the thing about it is, when you train as a sportsman, especially because football was my primary love.
What position?
Yeah, so when you train as a sportsman, it's a certain lifestyle that you adapt, right? You don't eat a lot of fried foods, and you don't feel like you want fried foods either. So in a sense, not eating roti at a younger age was good for me, because as you know, it's a lot of oils that go into the foods as well. As much as they taste fantastic, you should eat them ever so often and not every day, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Caribbean foods are famous for being oily as well, which is why they taste so fantastic. They taste amazing, right? But I always encourage. I have a son. I always encourage him to eat. Well, he's young, so whatever he's fed is what he'll eat. So from a very young age, we always give him a lot of fruits and vegetables, and we do eat a lot of protein, a lot of meat and beans as well. And as much as it is also a show about Trinidadian foods, because of my mom being partly Dutch and Surinamese, beans are actually a big thing in terms of that culture and what you eat as well. So I grew up eating a lot of beans,
Okay.
and it's quite delicious, So, and in Trinidad, which is the second food I'm going to get to, which is generic, most people would say, but everybody loves it, is Callaloo. You just cannot go wrong with Callaloo, right? And essentially, what would you eat it with? I love eating it with a good macaroni pie, stewed chicken, right? And very good kidney beans, red beans, right? So now again, different people make red beans in very different ways. So, but this particular little restaurant that I like to frequent on a Sunday, they make a fantastic red bean, callaloo, macaroni pie, and whether you want to choose two chicken or barbecue, whatever, or lamb, whichever you want, right? But and this is a funny story because, like I mentioned to you, I only recently picked up golf, maybe about 3 months ago.
Golf,
And
yeah?
yeah, 3 months ago. So I was getting fed up with COVID. Because as a sports person, any sports person who's listening to this will understand, you need to play sports. It's necessary, right? So COVID, of course, locked down the gym, and I was going to the gym regularly before COVID. That's something that I picked up after I got my knee injury, because that's what killed my competitive football. I picked up a very terrible knee injury, and then because of that, I started attending the gym a little more regularly. But
So,
that's
so
20.
what position did you play for football?
I started off because I'm a left. I have a left my left leg, right? I'm a left footer, so I started off on the left wing. I'm a left winger, but I drifted very much to center midfield and just behind the striker as I got a little bit older and more mature and wiser in the game. Because because when I really got into competitive football, at first all the coaches thought, well, I was really fast, so they put me on the wing because I had the left foot and I could cross really well. They thought, okay, look, let's put him on the wing. But like I said, as I developed my personal game, I was able to drift a little bit more to the center, and I love to distribute the ball. So that made more sense to me than just running up the line, right? I love tuning as well, and of course, having grown up in the Dutch system, it's a style of play. Tuning is a big part of the game, right? And so my favorite players were when I was younger. It was Mark Overmars. He was a winger,
Oh,
but then,
right.
like I said, as I got wiser in the game, it became more Johan Cruyff, and then you had Wesley Sneijder as well. So there were a lot of Clarence Seedorf, Edgar Davids, right? So those are the guys who I really followed, and even outside of the Dutch game, Zinedine Zidane as well is a fantastic player. You know, these are geniuses, right?
So I've got a
So,
funny feeling you're going to say that your favorite team was Real Madrid.
interestingly, no, my team is Ajax Amsterdam.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
yes, yes. And because of Ajax Amsterdam, my grandfather also was a Barcelona supporter, because Barcelona and Ajax Amsterdam have very close ties in historically, right? And
Cool.
so and my uncle, so who is my on my mother's side, my maternal uncle, he was actually at a game in the 1980s when Maradona played for Barcelona, and was lucky enough to be sitting down at the very front of the stadium, very close to the pitch. And at the end of the game, Maradona took off his shirt and threw it into the stands. Now the stands were different back then, of course, and he and his friend caught it, and I was actually able to get that shirt. So I have that shirt as a
All right.
off the back of Maradona. Yeah, it's
Cool.
quite amazing actually. So I have one of those. So always been an Ajax and a Barcelona fan, because of course the systems are very much the same. They play the
Yeah. Yeah.
Total Football, which is the 4-3-3 system, right?
Very
Uh,
beautiful.
Unfortunately, you've seen Barcelona's had a slide of late, but I think it's mismanagement more than anything else. As with
But they
anything,
give Real Madrid a whooping the other day.
they did from Bayern München, correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct, and also from Real Madrid. So all Real Madrid fans would be very, very, very pleased, because you know that's a big thing between both clubs, right? And there's a lot of history there as well too, not just with football, but between the cities of Barcelona and Madrid, right? So yeah. So interestingly,
But let's get back to Callaloo.
yes.
Yeah.
So the point I was making was that I got into the golf because there was no sport to be played, right? And my father, who actually played golf at a very national level as well, and our house is littered with his trophies and crystals from all the competitions that he would have won. I decided at the very end of last year that I couldn't take sitting down home, and I was getting bored of running. So I said, hey, I want to join you on the golf course. Let me just try my hand literally at this. And I totally fell in love with the sport.
All
It's a
right.
fantastic sport. Frankly, I'm asking myself why haven't I been playing golf from a very young age.
Yeah, a friend of mine from England said the same thing because I was surprised. I always thought it was an old man's game. And
Exactly.
he said he's about 10 years younger than me, but he said he's been playing it for about 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's
he's
actually
been playing
very,
it from when he was fairly young, and he says he loves it. Him and his friends all around the same age have a fantastic time.
yeah.
I can't understand it because to me personally, it looks like a very boring game.
No,
But
that's, you need to try it. It's actually, let me put it this way. If you're anything like myself and you like technical things, you like being challenged, you're going to love this sport because no stroke is the same. You can play the same golf course every day of your life, and your stroke will technically change every day of your life. Because it's all about the environment, the topography, how you are mentally, how you mentally feel on that day as well, how you set yourself up. It's very different because, and I can do the comparison because I've played other sports at high levels. So for example, with football, once you understand your game, which is a position that you play, and your fitness level is at a particular level, you can really challenge anyone, right? But golf is, it's about you on that day and the environment and the
elements,
topography, which
right?
can change, So you have to adjust every time you play, every time. And that's different from, let's say, football or even martial arts. So I'm not a martial artist per se, but I've done kickboxing, right? I've done it with a few people now as well. And it's really about your skill level that you can apply at any point in time. The only difference is how strong your opponent is or how fast your opponent is. That's what you have to adapt to, right? So similarly, even with swimming, it's always the same unless you change from a pool to the ocean, for example, right? So that is why I like the sport of golf. It gives me a challenge, and I love challenges. I love challenges. I rise to the occasion when there is a challenge. Otherwise, I'm bored, right? And so this is and this will take us really to the other part of what we will chat today, which is Biotech Plus. As you can see it on my shirt, it's on this side, right?
Right.
Yes. So we were just touching on the Callaloo, right?
So where do you go and get your Callaloo from? What shop was it?
Right. So it's called D's Deli. D's Deli. And D's Deli is on the Old Southern Main Road. When you swing off of the Rivulet Road, heading in a southerly direction, as if you want to go to Couva.
Oh, right. Okay, that river.
Okay.
I knew I heard that name before.
Yeah, so it'll be on your right hand side. It's actually a very small joint. She usually has a small chalkboard on the outside advertising her menu on that day. But I typically go on a Sunday, and again, I found it because of golf. So it was on a Sunday that I just finished playing golf, and I thought, man, I'm not gonna go home to cook right now. I'm not feeling, I'm a bit tired. So I figured I'm gonna take a drive because the golf course is the Brechin Castle Golf Course, which is in Couva on the Rivulet Road. So I just followed the road down at the roundabout, and I took a right. And so I just started searching, and I saw these delis, right? So I stopped, saw the sign, and walked inside, and I was like, wow, okay, this looks great. But of course, things can look great but not taste great. But I'm all about giving everything a try. You know what I mean? So I went in and I asked her, well, what she had, and I purchased the food. And on that day, it was barbecued lamb, macaroni pie, callaloo, and kidney beans. And it was absolutely fantastic. It was splendid. It really was, And so when I went back the following weekend as well, I said, listen, your food is amazing. I'm going to tell people about this place. And she's like, wow, I really appreciate that. So these delis does not even know that I'm on the show talking about these delis
Right.
today.
One thing I've
Right?
noticed,
But
sorry to cut you. One thing I've noticed is, like, I've heard as well that Trinidadian Callaloo, for example, is very different to, or slightly different to, Jamaican Callaloo. And I saw
okay,
some Jamaican Callaloo, and it seemed a lot chunkier. Like you would have stalks of the spinach or whatever they put. It was
okay,
a
right,
lot more
right, right,
lumpy. Whereas ours tend to be a lot creamier, a lot
right,
smoother.
smoother, right, right, right. It
Is
could be the, I mean, it could really be the process of making it. Maybe I've never, I'll be honest with you, I've never made callaloo in my life, but I do love cooking, and it would have to be maybe a blending process or even a boiling process that would break down the spinach, the dashing bush essentially,
yeah,
to that point that it would be so soft and smooth. And of course, I think we use
coconut
a lot of,
milk. I think there's a lot more coconut milk in ours as well.
yeah, a lot of coconut milk, and we use okra as well in callaloo, which is why you get that little sliminess to it as well, right? Um, Now, of course, no offense to our Caribbean neighbors, but they don't have, and which is the point I started with, they don't have the fusion that we have in Trinidad, right? If you think about it, we have persons, we have diasporas of African descent, of East Indian descent, of Arabic descent, of different European descents in Trinidad, and of Asian descents, Eastern Asian descents, like Chinese, for example. So you have more of a mix lending to a pot, essentially.
And as you say, they're all taking variations
Yes,
of everyone's cultures and
it's
putting it
very
in together.
integrated. If you see Chinese food in Trinidad versus Chinese food in China, it's very different. It also tastes very different. And that's because of the spices that we use here, right? I mean, that's something we have to appreciate as well, you know? So definitely. And you know, I'll get even into, let's say, for example, what we grow here as well. Trinidad is really a blessed place, Trinidad and Tobago, because we have a unique soil. It's a green thumbed soil. You can pretty much grow anything in Trinidad and Tobago, and it will grow well.
Yeah. My father always said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's exceptional soil. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the Orinoco runs right into Trinidad, right? And of course, the location of the island as well. I think it is 10 degrees north of the equator, if I'm not mistaken. We always miss, we are under the hurricane belt. So we would get just enough rainfall to give you the optimal growth technically of your soil, right? So of anything that you put in your soil, sorry. Persons who have studied soil would probably be able to give you more information on that. I'm not a soil
Yeah. I have
analyst.
heard that we have very, very good soil
We
over
do
here.
have very good soil. We
Yeah.
do have very good soil, nice black soil. I think it is representative of our flag, together with the oil that we have. You know, the red, the white, and the black. Right. The red is the fire of the people, the sun. The white is the purity of the people. Right. Integrity, and I've heard some allude to um, the ocean as well being around us. I'm not sure how correct that is, but I do know it's about the purity of the people and the integrity, supposedly integrity as well, and the black, of course, being our resources, the oil that we have, and the richness of our soil and our people. So, yeah, I'm very proud, you know, and the thing about it is, I wanted to make it a point that I am of a diaspora myself, um, because of my mom, but that I am a Trinity bone. You know, this is my land. This is my love. I was born here. You know, we've had, both my sister and I have had opportunities to become something else, and we chose not to. We chose to be Trinidadian. We chose
Mhm.
to start our company here and build it here and represent our country and take it abroad, so to speak. You know, the goal of our company is to be a global company, and we have already started that process. So, and it is ready to represent Trinidad. And everywhere we go, say, people ask, you know, well, Where is this from? And we proudly say Trinidad and Tobago, because this is who we are. We have to build our country, you know. And at the end of the day, even though we are in a recession, and we are in a very steep recession, and I want everyone to understand that. Um, the younger folks, my generation, this generation, should not take the opportunity to leave. I know it's easier said than done because it is difficult. Right now in Trinidad, it has been difficult for the last, I would say, 7 to 10 years. Progressively difficult. But we are the generation that can make that change. We are the pioneers. We are the innovators. We are the ones that had the opportunity, really, at a grander level than our parents, to attend university and have tertiary education and to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, chemists such as myself, businessmen, um, environmentalists. The amount of quality people that the universities in Trinidad are pumping out in the last, I would say, 15 years has been quite remarkable. The fact that we are losing our people to countries abroad and companies abroad says a lot about really what's happening in our country. Now, like I said, it's easier said than done to say stay and create here. But building our own company has not been easy. I can attest to that, right? It's not easy at all. It's a challenge, but as I said, I rise to challenges, and I would like to appeal to all of my generation who would be listening to this and who could possibly put a percentage into creation. Take the opportunity of recession if you are an engineer and you were working for a company before to now start your own consultancy. Take the opportunity if you're a doctor and you are in the consultancy phase already in the RHAs, and start your own companies, your laboratories, start your own clinics, offer things at more cost effective prices. Try not to quote unquote bust people's pocket, right? And you can do these things for the chemists as well. For those people, look, for example, right now, everybody is talking about agriculture, right? We should have been encouraging agriculture 20 years ago when we had the oil money. It should have been invested there, right? So that we could expand, so that by now we would have been in a place of sustainability, right? Um, Granted, that time has passed. But again, because of the universities in Trinidad and Tobago, we have been pumping out a lot of students who are highly qualified in the agri sectors. And we can do a lot. We can do a lot. There is land. I'll give you a good example using using the Netherlands alone. The Netherlands is only 5 times bigger than Trinidad. It is only 5 times bigger than Trinidad, right? With a population of 17 million people. We have just roughly 1.3 to 1.4 million people. Now, I'm going to make the point and then I'm going to compare certain facts. The Netherlands is the second largest food producer in the world. A country that is just 5 times bigger than Trinidad. Now, I'm not saying that Trinidad needs to be like the Netherlands and be the second or third largest food producer in the world. But why not be able to produce food to sustain your own people? Why do we import as much as we import? I have no problem with importing fancy food. I have absolutely no problem with importing things that you cannot create on your own soil.
But what we
Right.
can make here, what's the
But
point of
stuff that
importing
you
it?
can, exactly. Stuff that you can make here, why not focus on producing it here? You would reduce the prices in the groceries and in the market significantly. Your people now, if they can afford bread to put on their tables for their families, will thrive. That is what you want. You want to create sustainability in your country. When I look are the different governments, because it's not one government I can say that is doing wrong. It's not one. And like I said, it's over a 10-year period that we've progressively declined, right? The recession is progressively worse, right? So I'm not going to point fingers at any one government and say, but what I've always found is that whichever government really comes into the country, into administration, what they do is, at most, you find that they would reduce the food bill in the supermarkets. They would reduce the cost of certain things, which is all good and well, but it's still import.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still import. Why not focus on creating more? That's where the sustainability comes in, right? And I think that's where we need to go as a country, because it's pretty obvious now that oil is a thing of the past. And even if oil is now triple what it was maybe a year and a half ago, war is not going to last, and we cannot depend on war for oil prices to go up. So, we can have this discussion all day long about really what needs to be done, but at the end of the day, who is the onus on? Is the onus on the government, really, or is it on us, the pioneers, the entrepreneurs, right, the innovators? If we have people who, for example, get into the agriculture and say, listen, I have the capacity, or I can work with the government to create the capacity to have more rice, have more provisions, create more tomatoes, whatsoever, melangin, whatever it is. Look at what we need as a country. Look at where our prices are highest. Invest there, right? And see what we get as a return. It is not impossible. People, I've heard ridiculous statements. We don't have enough land in Trinidad. I just compared Trinidad to the Netherlands, which is only 5 times bigger, and I've said that Netherlands is second largest producer. So don't tell me that we don't have land. There's enough technology now where you don't even need that land, so to speak.
I've got a funny feeling like the problem might not be so much with the governments, the various ones, but it might possibly be with the financiers of the governments, because the financiers have an agenda and they want the government to do certain things. And one of those things might be importing various products either through their distribution companies or whatever, so they make a profit. Unfortunately, it kills us.
Well, Eric, to be honest with you, if I get into that conversation, we will never end this discussion.
All right. Well, let's talk about your third favorite then.
Yeah, because politics internationally is about financing. It's about money, right? How do you become the administration? You have to win the election. How do you win the election? It's a marketing ploy. So you need money for a marketing ploy. Where do you get the money from? Financiers.
Yeah, but make those financiers public. Let the people know who the financiers are, and then the people can make a decision.
That's correct. And I would love for us to do that, but if you are going to use that as an example, then you have to relate it to very recently, where there was clause number 5 that the current administration did not want to sign for purchasing, right? And why is that? Because then you'd have to know where they're getting the money and the amount of money that they are getting. So they refuse to sign it, right? And that was also brought up with the previous administration, where they refused to sign it as well, but only because this administration now doesn't want to sign it. Oh, well, everybody needs to know about it. No. So it goes back and forth. It goes back and forth. But if you are to sign a bill such as that, right, sign on that clause, then your population would know what you're doing with the money, because then you become accountable to the people.
Our money,
It's our money, exactly. And for some reason, our politicians don't either understand that, or they don't want to understand it, or they just simply don't care.
Yeah, they're probably just gonna vote on another pay rise for themselves soon enough anyway.
Exactly. When and it's all about accountability. You know, when that young lady was murdered, was it a year ago?
Right.
And we all stood in Port of Spain and we had the march. And I requested accountability on the part of the judicial system. I requested an audit on the judicial system because my question was, how is it that rapists and murderers get out on bail so easily when they cannot afford simple commodities for survival? When you see where they live, for example, and they are coming out on $100,000 bills, where are they getting the money?
Yeah.
The judicial system needs to be audited, and they need to be accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Similarly with the politicians. And as long as we don't have that, we will not be a progressive nation. We will not be a progressive nation. If you look at the most progressive nations, and I'm not using the United States, because as far as I'm concerned, their time for progression has stalled. That has stalled now. But if you look at the Scandinavian countries, you look at the Western European countries, why are they so progressive? Because they are transparent people. They are accountable. Their systems are accountable. I mentioned to you, starting a business is one of the most difficult things in Trinidad. Why? Because apart from this simple signing up at the ministries in Port of Spain, the nepotism in this country is ridiculous. It's not about selling your product in this country. It's not about your quality. It is not about quality. It is about who knows you.
Right.
Not about who you know, you know.
Oh.
It's about who knows you. It has absolutely nothing to do with your certifications. Right? You can have all the certifications in the world, but if certain people don't know you, you will stall. You'll stall.
And that's so bad for the country.
Exactly.
For the people.
Because you will not grow. You will not grow. You know, and they're just not enough systems that are put in place. I was recently at a seminar that was held by the Chaguanas Chamber of Commerce, and I asked the Minister of Trade a question on what systems there are for local entrepreneurs and innovators to get us from point A to point B. The point B happened to be India, because the seminar was co-hosted by the Indian High Commission, right? And having gone through all of this, all of the systems as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, to get my product out into the world, I can safely say that the systems that they have set up are just not enough. Because in Trinidad, if you are to really get into the intricacies of it, you recognize that governments, the administrations here are mostly just about saying, well, if you qualify for the grant, we will give you the money, and then really and truly, that's it. You have to find your way. So this particular seminar was about getting local business into India, right? Now, I made a comment on the day. I said, look, this Trinidad is what, 42 by 98 miles wide. We're a dot. We are literally a drop in the ocean when you compare it to the vastness of the Indian subcontinent, right? Their population density is 1,000 times what we are. How do I, as a businessman, budding businessman, get from my dot in the world to India? And what I mean by that is, how do I know who are the who's, the what's, the when's, the how's, and the why's? How do I know that? I don't know that. I have to find that information from somewhere. So she referred to Export TT, which systems we also went through. I mean, I've literally checked all the boxes for all of these things. And when you look at Export TT, and I'm glad that I'm on this forum, because if someone from Export TT is hearing me, then hopefully they look into it as well, because in Export TT, the information focuses primarily on the Western Hemisphere, and not even so much It's mostly on the North Americas and on the UK, not even within the EU, right?
Oh,
We don't have really systems to get into the EU. We have to go through the UK to get
which is
into, which is
which
a
is now
loop,
no
which is a
longer in
loop.
the EU.
Exactly, right? There's nothing about India, for example. And here you are, as the Honorable Trade Minister, standing on a podium asking SMEs who were there to invest your money and go to India. But how? The question is how? How? I did it by going directly to the Indian High Commission, which is why I was at that particular seminar. They would have invited me because I was already working with them. But a lot of people, and let's be real about it. A man who is building something may be very qualified in that thing, but he may not be so versed in getting his product from point A to point B, right?
Different
I,
talents, yeah.
I think it's only because I really like to dig and find out, and I ask a lot of whys, that I was able to say, hey, listen, I can't find any from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, so let me go to the source. Who do we have from India in Trinidad? Well, the Indian High Commission. So I sent our own team to the High Commission, and we had a chat with the trade liaisons there, and it was very fruitful. And they explained to us what steps needed to be taken in order for us to get from point A to metaphorical point B, right? And so we are on that process. We are using those steps, right? And but for the regular Joe, and I'm a regular Joe. Let me say that very clearly. I'm a regular Joe. So for the average Trinidadian, how is he to know that? And that's the point I was making, and it's the trade minister kept saying, go to export TT, go to export TT, go to export TT. And I said, look, I've been there. And she said, no, well, there's a plan. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to turn it into a debate. So I just opted for saying, well, okay, thank you. I was not aware. And I left it there because it would take up the rest of the evening. So, but those are just the facts. There's just not enough for local entrepreneurs to get the product out. And let's be real. You are going to use Trinidad as your stepping stone if you really want to grow your business. If you really want to grow your business, you're not going to keep it just in Trinidad. You're going to want to expand outward, right? And look, we've done all the tests. We've done all the tests in the United States. We are more than certified, right? So it is a matter of understanding who, what, when, and how to actually say, hey, how can I start selling my product across there, whether it be in India, or it be in China, whether it be in Philippines, whether it be in Indonesia. And you have to look at all these places because those are where your highest population densities are. Where your highest population densities are where your markets are. Where your markets are is where people will buy your product, right?
So sorry, Export TT, they had no information on how to get the product to
not to India. No.
What about China?
I didn't ask about China, but as far as I'm aware, it was primarily about the Western Hemisphere. So they would give you information about, let's say, Panama, the United States, Canada, the UK, those countries.
Okay. But it was interesting because, like, those are the two biggest markets in the world.
But that's what I'm saying. Correct. And the thing about it is also, what I would have liked to see was, in terms of my field. Now, obviously, you can't get into the intricacies of different fields. But let's say you're going into manufacturing. Let's call it just a simple header as manufacturing. Who are the major distributors for some of the major cities or areas or provinces in India or in China? Those are the things you want to know. Googling it is not going to give you that information because you're going to get 100 different ones, and what shows up on Google is people who are paying to put it there, right? So, but you want to get, as a manufacturer yourself, you want to be able to work with people across there so that they can do partial manufacturing for you, because you still want, as a Trinidadian and as a patriot, for Trinidad to gain from what you are doing across there. Because it's very easy for me to say, hey, okay, I'm going to go across to India or China or the Philippines or Indonesia and say, I'm going to do everything across there. What does Trinidad gain from that? Nothing. So where are the systems that will help us to grow our beautiful country? Right? You know, I follow a lot of local videographers and photographers. And you know, with TikTok and you have Instagram and all of those things now, you really get a chance to see the beauty of Trinidad and Tobago, right? I am, because of my father, from a very young age, we really traversed Trinidad and went into every nook and cranny, every beach, mountain, gorge, you name it, I've hiked it, I've done it, you know. And it's because of that too, traveled across the country and eaten all different types of food and really enjoyed
Sorry.
that's okay, bless you. Really enjoy the indigenous that we are, right? And I say indigenous, no, we're not the original people that were here, but we're very much who we are because we've integrated amongst ourselves and we've created our own culture that is very much Trinidadian. I heard someone who was supposed to be of repute some time ago say that doubles is not Trinidadian, and you know, I had to shake my head because you know there are foods in the Arabian countries and in the Middle Eastern countries, I should say, like falafel, for example, that you can compare to a doubles, right? But a doubles is uniquely Trinidadian.
Yeah, yeah.
The spices, the way it is made, right? It is uniquely, and even the things that you add to it is uniquely Trinidadian. So you cannot say that it isn't. Right?
Where were they claiming this from?
Sorry?
The person you was talking to, where were they claiming it's from?
No. I wasn't speaking to the person. The person made a comment on, I think it was on television or something. It was a minister, and you know we have some special ministers in our country. So you know, I wouldn't call any names. But I mean, the sad part about it is that there is a lack of appreciation, I think, for who and what we are as a people. It is a simple. And a simple truth of it is, or reference, is the fact that we litter. We have such beautiful, as I mentioned to you before, with all these videographers and photographers in Trinidad. You see lovely spots in Trinidad, and then you see trash on the floor. And it really hurts my heart because you would not go to another country and do that, but you do it here. How hard is it for you to just take a plastic bag with you wherever you're going, fill it up, take your trash home, and put it in your trash can? It's not that difficult.
But I remember when I was growing up in England as a child, there would always be "do not litter" adverts on the TV, on the radio,
yes,
in newspapers. But I haven't seen anything like that over here. And like since coming over here, like I witness it with my own eyes. People could be anywhere. The beach, the river, the road. If they're eating something, they just throw it wherever they are. They've got no care or respect for their surroundings at all. And that is so sad.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. There is not enough education. This is not in our schools. This is not on the television. You know, you see more, and granted, don't get me wrong, fast food outlets are allowed to advertise as much as they want because they spend their money. It's marketing. But our administrations don't spend the money in marketing for the things that really matter to our country. They would spend money in marketing when it's election time. Vote the UNC, vote the PNM. But when you're in power, there is nothing about do not litter. There's nothing about that. There's nothing about taking care of your country. What we have now, which I'm very proud of, but frankly, it's not sustainable either, and it's not their fault because there are people. are the NGOs. The NGOs now, they are doing the cleaning campaigns. But that in itself will only last for a certain period of time. When you have people throwing things on the ground, and when you ask them why, they say, are giving CPEP some work to do. It tells you the level of ignorance that we have in our country, right? That is a level of ignorance because you do not recognize that you are destroying your country.
And the sad thing is, like, the child will see the parent do the same thing and think that's normal. That's the sad thing.
Exactly. Look, for example, there are plastics now that are quote unquote biodegradable, right? But if people understand that it takes 7 years for it to disintegrate, to become part of the earth, then you realize that you are clogging your drains and rivers for 7 years.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Right? It makes no sense. And look, even with our company, we say that we are pushing towards biodegradability for our plastics. But we do not tell people, what we tell people is do not throw away the plastics. We make it reusable. Refills. We do refills. We do bundle packages whereby you don't have to throw it away. You just keep refilling. That's the European system, by the way. That's the system that I grew up with. That's what we do there, right? So, and that's what needs to be implemented here, right? There used to be a system where you can take your bottles back to the bottling plant, the glass bottles, and you get 15 cents on the bottle for it. I don't even know if that still exists. We don't have any system whereby you separate your trash either. There is no progression. We still have a dump to the entrance of our capital.
One dump. You think one dump?
No, we have
the whole of Trinidad?
One dump. We have one heading down in Claxton Bay as well, heading south.
Oh, 2 dumps.
Yeah. But
2 dumps for the whole country. But you see dumps in every village. We've got one down the end of our road because for the whole country there's only 2 dumps. That's why.
Yeah.
But listen, let's get back onto the food. Let's talk about the food.
Like I said, we could go
we
on.
got a little bit sidetracked.
Sure. So
fascinating conversation, by the way. Really is fascinating. But okay.
Hit me up anytime. I'm always up for these conversations.
Yeah. Let's talk about your third.
Yes, my third food is also another very generic one that everybody is familiar with. At least I hope so, as Trinidadians and Tobagonians, right? Or Trinbagonians, I should say, is bacon shark. I don't think I could hit the North Coast without having a bacon shark. And to be honest with you, I try to go every other weekend, except for when there was the beaches were closed. I'm a huge beach bum. I've been that ever since I was a kid. Like I mentioned to you, my father always took us to the beach, and it's a big part of who I am as a Trinidadian, as an island boy, so to speak. I just love the ocean, and so with the bacon shark, it is again uniquely Trinidadian. It is uniquely Trinidadian. The way it is made, the sauces that you use, it is something that once you get to Maracas, you need to have, as far as I'm concerned, at least. And I've tried all of them on the stretch in Maracas. I have my favorite, and that is Abby's. Abby's is the, let's see, 1, 2. She's in the middle cluster of those new
it's a new complex there.
Yeah. And I think she's the middle of the middle. Abby's, right? Very nice lady. I've purchased from everyone. But the quality of her food it's really good, and everything is it would surprise you when I say everything is fresh, because you would assume that everything is fresh on Maracas, but Not really so. Okay. So I don't know if you know the difference between shark and catfish.
Yeah, I've heard that there's some substitutes being used.
Exactly. So shark is smoother on the tongue, so to speak, right? It is not as chunky, right? In terms of the meat. And if you do it correctly, when you are doing the bacon sharks, you have to cut it very fine, right? So you can always tell the difference between what is the substitute and what is the actual shark, right? So once I go to Abby's, I'm salivating, by the way, because we only
Yeah,
talk
me
about
too, me too.
yeah, we're only talking about food. And by the way, as I mentioned to you before, I am Muslim, so this is the month of Ramadan, and I'm fasting. I'm fasting,
And we're talking
so
about
I
food.
am not allowed to have food or
Oh,
drink
sorry.
until from sun up to sundown. So, and we're talking about food right now. So this is fun. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah. So the bacon shark, I love to add the tamarind sauce. That's my favorite sauce to add on the bacon shark, and I don't use too much of the ketchup. I prefer the tamarind sauce and a little bit of the garlic sauce as well. I know a lot of people use shadow benny, but that it kind of gives me an acid reflux, so I prefer not to use the shadow benny too much. I also did not really grow up with it at home because of mom. Again, that was the European influence there. Um, but shadow benny, once I use an antacid, I can use the shadow benny in the food, and
Okay.
and the food tastes fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but of course, it's not every day that I have it. So if I go, I would use the tamarind sauce, the garlic sauces, maybe a little bit of the ketchup. Oh, and there is the I'm going to use the brand because I don't know actually what it's called, but a Thousand Island type of sauce. The
Right.
mix, yeah, the mix, which is technically a veg salad sauce, right? Salad dressing, so to speak. And yeah, and I loaded up with some pineapple. I love pineapple, onions. What else is there? The actual mixed shredded cabbage and lettuce. I think they have carrots and so forth. Put it all together, and once the bake is crunchy, that just makes it perfect, right? So that is my other favorite. That's those
So
are three.
can I just ask you? Can I just ask you? If
Sure.
someone was to give you like a bacon shark and the imitation with catfish, you can't examine it. You just have to take a bite. Do you
Yeah.
think you'd be able to tell the difference between?
Hell yeah.
Okay. Right.
Of course. I've been eating it for so long.
Right.
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
Right.
You know, there was a nice, I don't know what I have with nice Indian old ladies, but they make the best food. There was one also on Maracas years ago before they had these new stalls. And she also made a fantastic bacon shark. And you can tell that it was really shark as well. Because what she did not use too much butter on the shark. She could really taste the shark. I don't see her anymore. I don't know where she is now, but her food was also very, very good.
The
This
one, sorry, the one bad thing with the bacon shark though is shark is kind of like an endangered
in
species.
danger,
That's the
correct, correct,
only
correct,
downside with the bacon shark. And I've
correct.
been trying to like, I want to get a lionfish hunter on the show because as far as I hear, lionfish is really the way to go. But it's just so hard to catch them. But I just want to try and publicize.
Well, maybe you should speak to my sister. She's a master's in environmental chemistry and environmental studies. Um, she can direct you as to where to get lionfish because they have those, if I'm not mistaken, in and around Tobago, and they are invasive. So
Yeah,
that will bode well for what you are trying to create, right? Because you can eat it.
yeah, and it's
You
meant
go.
to taste okay. Have you ever had it?
I don't think that I have. I
Right.
can't put my head on a block for that either. But I was told also that they don't taste too bad. And just going back to the shark, I I agree that they are endangered, but I have to identify what type of shark is endangered in and around Trinidad. Again, I can ask my sister for that information. She probably be able to identify and let me know what that is. But
Please let me know as well when
yeah,
you find out.
definitely. So thankfully, I just eat shark twice for the month, if so much, because that's the number of times that I would go to the beach, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
what I do is I don't frequent Maracas that much anymore for a dip. I go just for food, and now I drive further up to beaches that are closer to Blanchisseuse and in Blanchisseuse, because I'm not a fan of noise, and Maracas has become a noisy place now. They play a lot of noisy music, loud music, sorry, I should say,
Yeah, it's a
and
popular beach, isn't it? Yeah.
a lot of people, and I prefer peace.
So you'd go to Las Cuevas or Tyrico instead?
I go past Las Vegas. I go past Las
Oh, right.
Vegas.
Right.
Yeah, I go to Lafayette. I go to Damien 1, D1, D2, Yara, those types of beaches. There's just a lot less people. There's less noise. It is just peaceful. I'm there for the peace.
And how's the
So
waters down there?
fantastic. If you get okay, let me put it this way for you. Trinidad, as you know, has two seasons. You have a wet season, you have a dry season. So the dry seasons typically runs to about June, and then you have a buffer period between June and August, and then it gets very humid and very, very rainy from August onward, right? So our waters tend to change color in the rainy season. But now, which is the dry season, if you in and around Trinidad, you will see emerald water or very blue water, especially on the north coast, right? And even at Easter, you will see very blue water in Mayaro and Manzanilla, right? Which is on the east coast. But if you go to the north coast now and you catch a low tide, you might think you're in Tobago. Yeah,
Beautiful water,
definitely.
yeah?
And like, I'm gonna give you a little secret here, but because obviously you have viewers, um, I would like you to go to a beach called 100 Steps, which is in the direction, it's Lafayette, right? So it's there's a trace just before you hit the bend, and you will identify the bend from the yellow houses, the apartments that are going up the hill. Just before you hit that bend, there's a little trace on the left hand side. I think it's Matthew Trace. You park your car there and you walk down the trail. There's a little part where you have to use a piece of rope, but it's not like you need to be some sort of a grand cliff
Right.
climber. It's quite simple to get down. When you get down there, there's a cove. And like I mentioned to you, it's blue. You can walk about maybe 20 to maybe even 30 feet out on a low tide, and it will be knee height. Knee height. You can see your toes, right? And what is beautiful about that particular beach is that about 100 meters out, there's a rock formation that acts as a reef barrier. So it prevents the currents which are flowing from, if I'm not mistaken, from east to west,
Mm.
right? It breaks those currents. So that cove becomes almost like a lagoon because you don't have massive waves. You don't have heavy currents.
Right.
You can swim cross bay very, very easily.
Okay.
And it's attached to two other little coves. So if you go on the left side, you have to walk around a rock, right? You will see another beach there, which is hidden almost. And then if you go to the right, which is on the easterly side, you have to walk through a rock formation, which is like an arch, right? Um, and you get to a secret beach, which is even more like a lagoon because the cove
That sounds
is
lovely.
narrower.
So
It's
this beach is called 100 Steps.
that is called 100 Steps, correct? Yes, and it's just before Lafayette fishing the fishing depot, which is on the corner. If you
Okay.
go to Lafayette, the corner there by the yellow apartments, there's a step with railings and so forth. You will see all the fishermen, all their boats there in the water, and that is also, I think, it is a fishing depot as well. Yeah,
Lovely.
it's really
That,
nice.
yeah, sounds like a place to check out.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
go ahead. So
No,
you can ask.
I was gonna say, it's time to talk about your product,
Dun 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 dun.
Biotech Plus. You
Yes.
know,
Here we go. Here we go. What you see it here, right? You can see it on the shirt. It's on this side.
yeah.
There we go. Right.
But
And
what made me so fascinated about this product is, well, just like any other sanitizer, it can be sprayed on surfaces. But your sanitizer can also be sprayed onto food. I'm going to show a video now where you see, I don't know what he's eating, but a guy sitting on a fence.
it's a Pomera. It's a Pomera.
All right. And he just sprays it onto it and he eats it as normal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change the taste of the food at all.
No, I'll show you something fun. Hold on. Let me show you something very quickly, right?
All right.
Are you seeing this? This is a bit of an older bottle, right? So
Right.
this is actually the logo, right?
Right.
So
Right directly in the.
there we
So
go.
What
Right?
does it taste like?
It's actually
Water.
right. Yeah, it would have a mild bitter taste. Yes, correct. But if you spray it onto, but that's a direct spray. But if you
Right.
spray it onto food, let's say the pomerac or an apple, there would be no taste. There would be absolutely no taste, right?
Because it evaporates.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, it's created in such a way. Okay, so interestingly, when we created BIOTECplus, which was 14 plus years ago, it was created for agriculture. It was created in such a way that it would not harm the plant or the environment and still remove the pathogens that would cause the seedlings particularly to die. So what you have with BIOTECplus when it was created, it was engineered in such a way to give you more output, more productivity from your seedlings, right? So when we realized what it could do, then we sent it for further testing, for human testing, because it was completely non-toxic and biodegradable. So then we did our testing for bacteria that would affect humans. So for example, Salmonella, Camelobacter, MRSA, which would, so Salmonella, for example, E. coli, they we found primarily in food, right? Camelobacter is also found in food. Listeria is also found in food. MRSA, which is methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, that is found primarily in hospitals, and that can kill you in a matter of 3 days. So what we did was, apart from, well, we started with the agriculture, and then we would have tested for humans and human interactions with food and in the environment, which is when we went into other bacteria as well. And it was shown very, very clearly that the product can be used on those bacteria for porous and non-porous surfaces. So you can apply it whether it is on the actual fruit and vegetables that you want to have in your grocery stores. It is a food preservative as well. So what will happen is, if you have fruits and vegetables, especially the ones that we import, they would have a very short shelf life because they would also be in transit from wherever they came in a boat, and then get onto the shelves in Trinidad. So they would probably have a week to 2 week period, maybe 3 week period on the shelves. But if you wash them with BIOTECplus before you put it on the shelves, you'd have a longer shelf life. Not just the fact that it's not going to spoil, but it remains crunchy.
Ah,
Yeah.
what?
So that's a huge advantage there. And of course, there is no smell, there's no sogginess, there's no residue, right? And it leaves no taste behind, right? So you very, very quickly and cost effectively, I should say, have a product that can do the job for you without spending a lot of money, having a longer output, and because you can keep it on the shelf longer, your patrons in your supermarkets will then be able to buy it before it spoils. Like, for example, I'm sure you like strawberries. When you go to some supermarkets, after a while, if you look at the bottom of the strawberry baskets, you can see them spoiling. There's a fungus that grows on them. If they were to take those strawberries when they actually get into the country, take them out of the packages, just dip them in the solution, the BIOTECplus solution, and then repackage them, you get an extra 2 weeks on the shelf. Hands down. Hands down, they remain country. Same thing with your bananas, especially with the softer fruits, right? Those are the ones that will spoil really fast. Even with the apples, for example, the apples they have a harder epidermal layer, right? Outer layer. And they are coated with a wax. I can't even count anymore the number of people who have said to me, Yasser, I'm so glad that we have BIOTECplus now. I can spray it onto the apple because I can't stand the wax that is on the apple. But the wax is a preservative, right? Spray it on the apple, it removes the wax, it sanitizes the apple, and then you can still eat it.
So it removes the wax as well on the apple, yeah?
Yeah. And like my son, for example, my son, he is 11, he's turning 12 in July. We have the same birthday, which is really cool, by the way. And he loves to cook. So whenever I'm cooking, and I love to cook, whenever I'm cooking, his designated task now, after I've chopped our vegetables and our meats, he stands over it with the BIOTECplus and he gives it a good surface area coat, and he tosses it and sprays it up. And he's like, Papa, I'm finished. It's now sanitized. I'm like, okay, awesome. And he knows we don't have to wash these things after. You can just cook with them afterwards, or just eat it just like that, right? If it is like vegetables, for example.
One thing I've heard about BIOTECplus is that that for the past 2 years we've been living in a world where we have to sanitize our hands all the time, and eventually our hands start to feel dry.
Correct.
I've heard with BIOTECplus, it doesn't dry out your hands.
Correct, because we don't use alcohol. Our product contains no alcohol. What we use, which is also I'm going to just say it, which makes our product awesome, is that we have our proprietary blend. It's our own blend. We do not bring a concentrate from somebody else, some other company somewhere, and do dilutions. No, we don't do that. Our product is made from our own blend of quaternary ammonia salts. Quaternary ammonia salts have been tested internationally from as long as I can remember to be biodegradable salts. And then we use a specific set of quaternary ammonia salts, which we know to be and have tested to be even more biodegradable and non-toxic as well, and completely safe, right? And what we've done is we've taken these chains and we've combined them in a very specific way, which is why I use the word proprietary, and to make our product, which is BIOTECplus, right? And because of the manner in which we have done our blend and our ppms, right, which means parts per million, we have created in such a way that I can just do what I did, which is spray it in my mouth and be fine, right? So completely non-toxic and biodegradable. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we have done all the tests to prove these things, and the tests are on our website as well for all to see. So we are also a very transparent company. In fact, it was the Chemistry, Food and Drug Department that said to me, that said to our analytic department, when they had the conversation with them, they said, BIOTECplus and YBMS Biotec Limited is a fantastic company because they have all their certificates ready for everybody to see. So, and they said the only downside to them being this transparent, which is what he liked, but the only downside to it was the fact that because we are so transparent, we are putting ourselves out there where people can maybe copy our stuff. So what we did was we made sure we put our watermarks behind our certificates and so forth. So just to avoid those things. But I am, as a chemist, uh, very transparent. And before I brought our product to market, I made sure to spend time and money on getting our certificates verifiable for all to see, because I think it's very important that people understand, not just educate, but understand what they're using and why they use it, you know. And I see a lot of products out there that don't have certificates, you know, and people who they people are advertising and they are allowed to advertise, and that's fine. But the consumer needs to be aware of what they are using. It can be very, if you don't have a product that's certified, or if you are just taking a concentrate and you are doing random dilutions based on active ingredients that you know nothing about. You are just literally taking a concentrate that you are purchased from somebody else, and then you doing dilutions, and then you're bottling it in a bottle and selling it and putting your brand on it. That's madness. But this is what is happening in Trinidad. And as a chemist, as a business owner, as a chemical manufacturer, I can tell you I'm aware of all of these companies. There are quite a few operators, I should say, in Trinidad, brand names out there that are local based, and they don't have certificates. They just don't, you know, and they're out there selling, and it's shocking that regulatory bodies in Trinidad are allowing this, you know, and this is why I make sure to do my testing internationally as well. So if anybody has any questions, they can simply go and see our international certificates that are verifiable. In fact, we were the first company, hands down, in Trinidad and Tobago to be verifiably tested for human corona, which is verifiable, quote unquote, by our certificate February to March of 2020, which is when COVID hit Trinidad. I happened to be on a work trip abroad when I saw what was going on in China. It had not yet hit the United States, and this would have been in November of 2019. And I immediately spoke to our team. I opted to send our product for testing against human corona. This is before brands such as Lysol had the word corona on their bottle. We had our certificate for against human corona. I'm very proud of that, and that was additional to all the other bacterial testings that we have and fungal testings that we have. And I must say though, the private community, business community has, what is the word I want to use? They have the wherewithal and the staff or the HR to identify if a product has quality. What I mean by that is when we go to hotels, because we are in a number of premier hotels across Trinidad and Tobago, when we go to our medical clinics, veterinary, dental, laboratory, those people look at our certificates and they say, yes, we see that you are quality. We will use your product, you know. And I'm very grateful to that community. I'm still waiting on the public aspect of things because there's a lot of nepotism, as we would have chatted about early on. And so it is more difficult to break into that area. We have all of our certificates, and I just wanted to make this very clear. All of our certificates that lead to the EPA certification. What we do not have is our EPA code. The EPA code requires roughly 15 to 25,000 US dollars in order to achieve the actual code, which is figures, it is numbers, right? But to get to the code, there's a system. You have to do testing to get there. And we've actually done all of those testings. So that's why I say the HR, the people who are regulatory in these private sector companies, whether they are hospitals, hotels, you name it, they're the ones who are actually qualified, highly qualified, and are capable of identifying the quality of our certificates. But when you put the focus on the public sectors, you find that the public sectors, maybe not that they're not qualified, but they follow a very strict regimen of, if I don't see an EPA code, I cannot use your product, which is very silly, because if you look at what is required to get the EPA code, which are the certificates which we have, then it'll be very simple and say, okay, look, you have what is required. We can use your product because you are completely safe. You're completely non-toxic, right? And on top of that, you are eliminating the pathogens that we specifically need you to do so. Like, I've spoken to so many doctors who are working in the RHAs, and they tell me, so why is your product not at the COVID facilities? Because they are spraying us with bleach, right? They are completely complaining to me. And I say to them, listen, we've been to them, we've spoken to them, but they refuse because we don't have an EPA code. And they don't seem to understand that the certificates are what are required to get to the EPA code. Yeah. And we even have the Bureau of Standards certification saying what our active ingredients are. So we have the combination from both ends, really, showing what the active ingredients are, how they work, and the actual certificates for each one of the pathogens. So what else is left? Just a code. So
it's only a matter of time before you get the code, though.
Well, as we would say in Islam, inshallah, if God be willing, we will get it at the soonest. So we are working on that to be able to achieve that. I hope to be able to do so at the soonest, and then I will go back to the RHAs and see what's happening.
Okay. Now, I saw you spray it into your mouth. So is it also a mouthwash as well?
I wouldn't say it's a mouthwash, but what I can tell you is, and here's the interesting part. I showed this very recently to one of our dental clients, right? If you have, now, let me just make a disclaimer first of all. I can do this, right? I wouldn't tell other people to do this as yet, because I'd have to get a certification to prove to you that it's safe for you to do it, okay? But you already know that it's safe for food, and you put food in your system, right? Okay. If you have an infection in your teeth by your gums, right?
Like an abscess or something.
Yes, right, exactly. You very simply point the nozzle to it and spray it, and leave it there. Don't wash it out, just spray it. Tell me in a few minutes if you still have pain. The pain will be gone. And if you spray it in the morning and the evening, by tomorrow you have no abscess. I promise you that. It is also a wound healer. Yeah. If you are getting the flu, for example, how do you identify usually that you're getting the flu? What are the symptoms? You usually have a little bit of an itchy throat, right? A sore throat, right? And maybe a mild runny nose. But usually it's the sore throat that would really get you to identify that you're getting a flu virus, right? So basically just spray to the back of your throat, identify where you're feeling it, spray to the back of your throat, gargle it a little bit, and then spit it back out. And your sore throat, I promise you this, your sore throat will ease. And if you do it a couple of times during the day, let's give yourself an 8-hour period, just do it like that, like regularly how you would use a mouthwash to gargle, really, and or chloroseptic spray. Because by the way, chloroseptic sprays use basic quaternary ammonia salts, which a lot of people don't know, right? Contact lens solution use quaternary ammonia salts. Detergents use quaternary ammonia salts. Your quicks that you use to wash your wares use quaternary ammonia salts. And so we have a unique blend of quaternary ammonia salts. And we have the ppms that already prove how safe it is on food. So this is why I can show you, for example, that I can use it at the back of my throat, for example, for a sore throat, or if I have an abscess by my teeth and my gums, I can use it there as well. If I fall and I got a little white man, you call it a white man, I can spray it there, and it's a wound healer. It dries up very, very quickly, and it leaves no residue either.
Okay, so I've got this bottle here. It's a generic brand. It's a hand sanitizer.
Right.
On here it says kills 99.9% of bacteria and viruses, which yours claims it does as well. Contains added moisturizer. Well, yours doesn't need added moisturizer because it doesn't dry out your hands.
It's on its own. It doesn't need added moisturizer.
Right. And well, easy spray application.
Yeah.
Those are the three benefits of that. But price-wise, I think this is something like how many millimeters is this? Let's see. It's probably about 500 millimeters.
Okay, right.
Are we looking at like is this going to be cheaper or more expensive than yours?
So before you get into price, you have to understand the nature of the product that you're holding in your hand, right? And as I mentioned to you before, I have absolutely no issues with competitors and competitiveness, right? But you have to understand quality of any alcohol-based product. There was a case study that was done in 1998 by the FDA for a alcohol-based sanitizer, right? It's a very popular name. It's still very much around. It begins with a P and ends with an L. I'm not going to say what name it is. You can figure that out, right? Okay. So, and it showed that the alcohol-based sanitizers do not kill the bacteria and the virus. Certainly not the viruses. Why? Because they only break through the outer layers of these cells, which means the inner layers are intact. And if the inner layers are intact, what happens? They mutate. So you get different strains, which is why you have so many strains of COVID today. Because internationally, governments have said use alcohol to protect yourself from COVID. But what they didn't realize was that you are only in the moment protecting yourself from COVID. But what you're doing is creating strains of it because it's going to manifest itself, it's going to evolve. It's going to mutate, that's the word. It's going to mutate because it's the core of it is still intact. And that's how the microbiology of it really works, right? So, by the way, that's also part of my background. I'm also part of my background is microbiology as well, right? So that it will mutate and you will have that problem of different strains coming about. That's how you have all the different strains of COVID, right? Because you're using the alcohol. So that's one. Two is it's going to blister your hand after a while because alcohol does that, right? It will evaporate and it's going to damage your hands. That's why they needed to add a moisturizer in there, right? Adding a moisturizer, depending on what type of moisturizer you use, will actually affect the quality of the alcohol, which is why most alcohol-based sanitizers require a ton of aloes in it, which is why you have that slimy effect. It's adding up now, right? Makes sense now, right? Right? And then of course you can't go and spray alcohol on your food, and you definitely don't want to spray alcohol and then light a fire because then you're going to catch a fire too, right? That's flammable. BIOTECplus is non-flammable. So BIOTECplus is completely non-toxic, biodegradable, completely safe on food. It removes all algae, fungus, molds, bacteria, viruses, right? It's tested for all of them. And like I mentioned to you, it's non-flammable as well. So you have a lot of advantages you have more advantages with BIOTECplus than with anything that you have out there. And I say that very boldly, because we've done our tests and we've done our comparisons, our competitor charts and that sort of stuff. There's literally nothing out there existing in Trinidad and to the world that can compare in terms of quality. And what do I mean by that? Because a lot of people can claim that you can kill or eliminate certain pathogens. There are a lot of products that can do that. Lysol does a lot of eliminations for a lot of things, but you would not spray Lysol on your food and eat it. No, sir, you won't, right? So you wouldn't spray Lysol on your skin either. No, sir, you won't, right? But you can do that with BIOTECplus. But here's an added advantage of BIOTECplus that you would not get with others. And that's the time frame in which it gets the job done. As a sanitizer, it does it on contact, 15 to 17 seconds. And as a disinfectant, where you have high concentrations of pathogens, for example, like mold, it takes 15 minutes. There is no product out there other than BIOTECplus that can do it in that time frame. There's absolutely no product. Disinfectants that are used for mold take a minimum of 1 hour, 8 hours, or 24 hours. And in that time frame, you cannot go into those areas.
Oh, right.
You cannot, right? It's hazardous for your respiratory system.
Right? So you're talking about building mold, like buildings that have got mold, infected with mold.
Correct.
You can go in there and it's going to do the same wonderful job, like kill everything.
I don't even need a mask. I don't even need a mask to apply it. What we recommend to the persons who are doing the applications using BIOTECplus, we recommend them use a surgical mask, for the only reason being that everybody is different in terms of reaction. For example, if I use a paracetamol is not supposed to cause somnolence. You are not supposed to feel sleepy with paracetamol. 99% of the world, if they take paracetamol, will be fine. If I take a paracetamol, I can hit my bed. I'll fall asleep. It knocks me out, right? Similarly, if we spray BIOTECplus, 99% of people will be fine, but one person will sneeze. Why? Not even because of the BIOTECplus, but because it's also water-based and it's water droplets in the air and it will go up your nose and may irritate you and you sneeze. So I say wear a surgical mask, right? So at the end of the day, you can, however, just spray without the mask on your face. It's fine. You can spray it on your skin. In fact, what I used to do when I used to do MRSA applications at St. Augustine Private Hospital, I would have the person who was with me applying spray me down from head to toe when I'm finished. Spray me down. Because I'm not taking any chances. Right? So, and I'm fine. So I always make a joke with people, you know. I always say, listen, if something were to happen by now, I would have an extra ear, an extra lip, you know. I'll probably be speaking like blah, 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 you know. But none of it has happened, so I'm fine.
So I just want to clarify as well. I think we touched on it before we actually came on air. But some farmers, they could spray on the cattle's food, in the cattle's troughs, and it's totally safe for the animals.
Exactly. Food, troughs, where they sleep, where they stay, where they roam, where they are. Yeah, so the housing, which would be where they stay, where they carry them. For example, we've dealt with different farms over the years. So you find that the issue with feces, right, with fecal matter. A lot of people, they expect miracles. So what we say is, listen, you need to remove the feces, obviously, in a practical way, right? And then you apply the BIOTECplus, and you will kill all the pathogens. And it's also a natural deodorizer. So it's going to remove the smell. So in pig farms, for example, it works fantastically because you know pig farms are a disaster for the environment, especially with smell, right? But we've applied in pig farms, like for example, in Venezuela and in Colombia. I mean, and some of these pigs, they look like they live better lives than you and me. You know what I mean? They look healthy and nice. They look really good, right?
Oh,
And of course, in poultry farms, nurseries as well, hatchling nurseries there. We use them as well. So you can also use it, which is I'm trying to find a word right now. It's a secondary uses of nurseries, right? In poultry farms. For example, they make chicken beds with the material that they would use, right, in the nurseries. So what you want to do is after you finish with those chickens, you take that material, you clean it, you apply the Biotec Plus, and then you can make the beds for the chickens as well. So there are a lot of supplemental usages for the product, and of course with the poultry farms, it's fantastic for the egg lines and so forth. We have them for cattle, for pigs, and what we show is for our farming sections, for the animal husbandry, we have our articles that we have created that specify the different types of pathogens that these farmers would have to deal with their cattle, with their pigs, with their ducks, with their chickens, right? And so we show you how Biotec Plus will now really remove those pathogens. So each one of the articles is unique to this segment. So we have them for the hospitals, and even within the hospitals, like the dent, the vets. We have them for the different types of farms. We have them for commercial buildings, and feel free if you wanted to give them a read for anything that you are doing as well. I can always send those to you, right? So yeah, and of course to all of those patrons listening as well, you can visit the website, which is YB, as in Y as in yacht, B as in bat, M as in mouse, S as in sock, YBMS, Biotec, BIOTEC.com. So there's no H on the Biotec. And you can go there and you will see all of our certificates. There's a lot of information. You can really educate yourself. I would like to also, all the patrons listening, to pay attention to this point. There is a company that actually uses our name, parading it on their website. Please be careful. That is not us. The only way you can get to us is by going to our website, which is YBMSbiotech.com, or you can visit our Instagram page, which is BIOTECplus Global, right? Because the company, like I said, is also directed towards being a multinational company. We are already exporting in a number of places throughout the Caribbean, and we are very actively seeking to set up our process plants in the Asian territories, in the European territories, and in Latin American territories. So, but like I said, we live in a Trinidad, and let me very careful, in a Trinidad and Tobago, where not everybody is above board. And like I said, there is a company that parades our brand and our logo. And what they have done is they've actually added an H to the biotech part of the Biotec Plus. And so that when you click on it, it takes you to their website, and then they sell you something else. So be very careful. And they've also, for quite some time, added that it is the same product. So be very careful, because it is absolutely not the same product.
Oh my days.
Yes, and our actual distributors are Tricor Marketing. They primarily do food, agriculture, restaurants, and hotels. So the HoReCa department, hotel, restaurant, cafe, farming departments as well. And we have Novaquan Enterprises, which does primarily retail, commercial, and then both of those distributor companies do the private medical segments, Tricor being doing the central south area, and Novaquan doing the east west area. And then finally we have Western Scientific, which is really our public health distributor. And they do primarily with the RHAs and so forth. But as I mentioned to you before, we have to really get the EPA code to break into that market. So we are actively working on that. So yeah, so just for the listeners and the viewers, just be careful. Like I said, there are a lot of underhanded people also in Trinidad. As much as I love my country, who
Brazen, brazen. For them to basically take your product and then just change it by putting the H on the text,
put an H, yeah, it's
and
really,
then claiming it's the same thing, but it's not.
yeah. No, they've actually. What is interesting is they actually said to a number of companies that it's the same product. That's what they claim. Claim the same product, that they were the manufacturers of the product. And when I heard this, I was like, how is this even possible? Because the manufacturers of the product are YBMS. And guess what? The YB in the YBMS is my name. So how can anybody else be the manufacturer? It's insane, right? But thankfully, as I mentioned to you before, the private business community has always been very loyal to me. I must say so. They always came back to me and said, Yasser, look, there's a company out there trying to, really be underhanded and claiming to be well you and your product and the manufacturer, but we know that it is you. And they all, even if they were initially contacted by this particular company, they all came back. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for my team. I really have an exceptional team. My company is really and truly, the core of it is myself, my business partner, and my sister. And from that core, we have expanded out. We have now a few departments, and we have all of our people who work and our associates who work with us in our departments, and our distributors who are very much aligned with our visions and our goals and our mission statements. And I really could not ask for better people to work with. We work as one team, even though we have these separate distributors. We act as one team. We work together as one team, and I'm very proud to work with them. And I'm very proud to have the staff that I have. They put out, if there is nothing more than 100%, but they put 110%. Let me put it that way. You know what I mean? And it makes me feel good to wake up every day to do my work. I wake up every day with a smile on my face. People ask me, yeah, so what is your work day like? I said, bro, I don't have a work day. I just have a day where I work. So I can get up and work at 5 a.m. and work all the way throughout the day to maybe 1 a.m. the following day. Or I can start working at 10 and finish at 10 a.m. and finish at 11. But I'm the type of person that I would plan my week on a Sunday. And I have my tasks set out for me. And I make sure and I complete my tasks at the end of the day. And then I have one of my directors, who is my sister. She is the planner of my life, I would say. And she makes sure, that I'm always on top of my game. I'm always on the ball. And she is very much on top of the ball for YBMS. She has really directed us to the place that we are today. And of course, I have my business partner. I could not ask for a better, more loyal, more transparent business partner. We built this together from scratch, really, and we've come quite a way, and I'm very proud of that. Just the fact that we built it in such a way that we've always been genuine toward each other. And I would give a piece of advice, if you would permit me, to any person or persons wanting to start a business and you're looking for business partners. My piece of advice to you is, don't invest everything all at once. Be honest and be clear with your business partner. Do everything 50-50 all the way through. Make sure that when they can put 50, you can put 50. And if you can't put 50 at any point in time, that they don't put 50 at any point in time. Because if one party puts a 50% and the other doesn't, and then the other party supplements that 50%, you will now be owing your 50%, and then you will grow resentment. So I have in the past tried with different businesses, right? Now I'm a chemist, so this is my forte. This business, this company, this manufacturing company is my forte, but I've touched on different things in my life. And I'll tell you something, if you want to grow a business relationship and a partnership with someone, you have to be very clear, very candid. And when it comes to money, you have to always do your part. And if you can't, you make that clear until you can. And once you're able to achieve that, you will achieve the respect of your peers, so that there is no resentment, and then you can develop your company, even if it is slowly. Because I will tell you something. People ask me who I am in the race. I say, first of all, I don't ever like to consider myself being in any race. But if we have to consider a race, and there's a tortoise and there's a hare, I am the tortoise. I am not the hare, because I'm never in a rush. I don't want to speed through this race. I want to build long term. If you are wanting to speed through a race, then you're only running a 100-meter race. You're not running a marathon. I want to run a marathon. You understand? So I'm not going to speed. I'm going to take my time. You may build a little bit slower than everybody else, but that's fine. If you build slower, you are sure to build quality. And that's what you want. When you put out a product, you want everybody to know that you are putting out quality, right? And that is what I'm proud of. That is why I speak so highly of the people who work with us. I never say people work for me. No one works for me. You work with me. Because without you, I'm nothing, right? So, and with you, I create what I create. So therefore, the quality of what we create is part and parcel of everyone who works with us. And the people who work with us are quality because we present quality to them. We present a certain way in which we do things. We are transparent. People say often, I heard it yesterday, someone said, Yasser, you're a very blunt individual. I said, well, how do you want me to be? You want me to go around you in circles and you never know from which direction I'm coming? Or would you rather I tell you how I feel, exactly what I want from you, and what I need from you, and what you need from me? Which do you prefer? You say, well, when you put it like that, I prefer you to be blunt. I say, well, okay, amen. Right? And so that is how we are as a team. You know, we are straight up. We say it as it is. Sometimes your feelings might get hurt, you know. But that's okay. That's okay, because we know it comes from a good place. You know it comes from a good place because I'm not lying to you and you're not lying to me, right? And so you build respect like that. And you find very often in many companies that does not exist. And that is why you find problems, right? So we've been able to build systems within our company that allow all of our facets and representatives to act the way that we act. That is, like I said, something that I'm very proud of.
Well, yes, and listen, I'm wishing you all the best, because if the way I see it, if your product is successful and is sold internationally and loved, I mean, this could really, if it's going to replace like the majority of the sanitizers in, say, like the Northern Hemisphere, for example, you could be bringing in a lot of currency into Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want to achieve. That is our vision. Our global vision is, and I will use the brand name Lysol. Everybody knows it, and that's the point exactly. The aim is to create a scenario whereby if you go to India or China or Indonesia or the Netherlands or Germany or the UK or Canada or the United States or Mexico or Latin America, you can find BIOTECplus. And
That would be amazing.
And not just find BIOTECplus. Find BIOTECplus for its usages. Because what I want to do different to, let's say, a Lysol is show the world the B2B applications of BIOTECplus, because Lysol is primarily retail oriented. I don't just want BIOTECplus to be this, the retail version. No, I want, and this is, let's give, if you would permit me 1 second.
Yeah.
I want in the world people to use the understand the B2B applications of our product. Meaning how this product would be diluted to be used in the different segments I would have mentioned before, whether they are agriculture, farms, hotels, food processing plants, medical, and so forth. So internationally, the aim is to create the scenario whereby BIOTECplus can be found across the globe, but be found and used in all segments. That is the key. That is where we will go beyond what already exists. We have already gone beyond what already exists in terms of our quality. Now I want to go beyond what already exists in terms of application and reach. That's what I want to do. That is what my focus is right now. That is what excites me. I'm sure you would hear the passion when I speak about the product, because I really have to apologize for the buying scrap iron and old battery buying going past here. I don't know if you're hearing it, but at least you know that I'm doing this in Trinidad and I'm not somewhere.
Yeah. They made a record about the buying scrap iron. I don't know whether you heard it or what.
Yeah. No, that's it right there. That's it. Like I said, at least you know I'm in Trinidad. I'm not. And this is not being aired from somewhere else, right? So I'm in the Chaguanas, Cunupia area right now, Point Pleasant Park. So as I was saying to you, you would hear the passion in my words and in my voice when I speak about BIOTECplus, because I am a chemist. I am an analytical chemist. And so particularly the applications of the product and how we have developed the PPMs, that matters to me, right? Because that is my forte. How you use the product and the PPMs in which they are created to be used is my capacity, my knowledge base then, so to speak. And so when I can explain to customers, listeners, viewers, and so forth, how to use the product, that brings life, that breathes life into me, right? So I'm always keen on giving those explanations, and this is what I always tell our distributors, you can always ask me to be on the road with you when you're going to do details at your food processing plants, or you're going to your hospitals or your clinics or whatsoever, or your farms, because I can really feed that information to the listener, and they can really understand comprehensively how the product should be used and how it can be used, right? And so with respect to food, as we were discussing today, whether you're having your Callaloos, you're having your bacon sharks, your crab and dumpling, which is another favorite of mine. I had to weigh out really which one I was going to talk about today. So whether you choose any of those, you can spray it, because remember also, guys, listen, COVID is the regulations with respect to COVID are now dying down, but COVID is not gone. That's one.
It's here to stay, definitely.
It's there, right? And we are all more aware of sanitizing and sanitizing purposes because of COVID now, right? And here's the thing. Whoever is serving you food is going to be breathing over your food. It's their hands, right? And whether they have a glove or not, because of COVID now, they could touch a surface and then transfer it with the glove onto your food stuff or onto the material that has the food. All you have to simply do is, let me, if you can see the bottle there,
Yeah, spray it onto the.
You see the mist. You spray there, 1, 2 sprays, and that's it. You're good to go, right? So, and of course, if you have food processing plants, you have flour plants, you have plants where you are making beverage plants, flours and FLOUR bread, right? This is perfect for it because all your food processing machinery would require the BIOTECplus Sanitizer / disinfectant to be applied on it, and because it evaporates very quickly, for stainless steel it will probably take you 20 minutes as opposed to 10 minutes to evaporate, because stainless steel takes longer, right? But it still saves you money and time because it's going to evaporate really quickly and get the job done. So there you go. So all of the food processing plants, and of course, as I mentioned to you, wherever you have agriculture, you could also use it. You could use it in nurseries. We recently did our tests also for cocoa plants, cocoa beans, and it shows that we get rid of all of the mold that is. So in cocoa production, bean production, you need the mold. Okay, so you have an aspect of the production where you put it into a sweat room. That is where you're going to get mold. Problem is, before you bag it to send it abroad, you need to really remove the mold, right? So with BIOTECplus, they wanted to test if BIOTECplus would remove the mold without affecting the flavor of the cocoa. And we proved successful to remove the mold without affecting the flavor. So that was fantastic, right?
And basically doing that, you're elongating the lifespan of the cocoa as well.
Exactly. You see, Eric, you understand it. You understand it. Correct. I love that. That is exactly what it is. So now you are capable of exporting your cocoa beans without damaging them, without changing the flavor, preserving them, and so you still have an exceptional cocoa bean before you make the chocolate all the way in England or in the Netherlands or in France or wherever else that they're going to use, or in Belgium, wherever they're going to use it. And so there are so many applications for our product, right? And
But
like I
yes, so
said,
listen, I see your passion and I think it's amazing. I think you're amazing. I think your product is amazing as well. And I think you must be a nice boss to have as well. You probably push them a bit hard as well, but you fear as well too.
I do push them, but
Yes, but that's good. There's a saying I've heard that some trainees are lazy, so it's good that you push them.
No, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think my staff is lazy at all. I'll go back to that point I made earlier. They are a very productive staff, I must say. And it's because also, going back to what you said, maybe I'm a nice boss, but as I was referring to the advice that I was giving earlier, it's how you treat people that brings out the best in people.
Yeah.
And if you are a boss, a manager, a supervisor, don't think because you're at a certain level that you are better than anybody else. Remember, management is about making people better.
Yeah.
Not about showing that you are above them. Yeah. It's about making people better. It's about growing them, right? Yeah. And so that is my mantra when I am dealing with my people, with the people who work with us, and it is always a joy and a pleasure. Yes, we work hard. Yes, I push them, and they know that. And recently we brought in another person into the company, and that person is technically I utilize that individual as my manager now. Because there's so many balls I have up in the air that I have to juggle, and that my sister, the other director, has to juggle. That we are stretched pretty thin, right? So with this person that we brought into the company, it's more strategy oriented, and he is now really guiding us to give us a chance to breathe during the day. It's helping me out. That's why I can now find 2 hours or 2.5 hours in my day to go and play 9 holes of golf. And it's not every day; it's 1 to 2 a week.
Yes,
I'm enjoying the golf though. It's quite good.
I've got to try it one day. But listen, Yasser, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, finding out more about your product, more about yourself, and of course the food. You know,
And Eric, let me just apologize to you. I know it was long due for us to have this chat and conversation, but as I was explaining to you, it's been hectic over the last 2 years, which is from when we met a year and a half ago, I think it was. Um, but I'm glad that I kept the contact with you and that we were able to have this discussion today. And as I mentioned to you last week, I said, listen, let's put it for this week, because if I don't know when else we'll be able to find the time to do it. So thank you for also honoring the time and day that we could have this conversation.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to one day going down to St. James and trying one of those.
Well, we have to go. No, well, I won't allow you to go alone. We have to go together.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. How do you spell that? Is it DOSTI?
DOSTI, correct.
Right. Dosti.
Now,
I've never heard of that.
It
Never
has to
heard of
be. That's a good question. Maybe in Trinidad they spell it DOSTEE. I spell it DOSTI.
Right.
So
okay.
I don't.
I'm not a researcher. I've never heard it. As I say, when we go down there, I'm going to look forward to getting a taste of that. But
Right.
as I say, really great having you on this show. And look out for the edited versions. They're coming up soon.
Definitely.
Blessings, Yasser.
Definitely a pleasure. Definitely a pleasure.